This is the app catalog, where employees can place self-service requests to access approved tools. The benefit of this is twofold. For IT admins, it's improved efficiency and auditability by having access requests managed through a single tool, as opposed to being fragmented across ad hoc emails, Slack notifications, or Jira tickets. For the end user, it means a single source of truth for approved applications and frictionless path to access those tools, which in turn tends to reduce shadow IT adoption. So let's take a look from the end user perspective. As you'll see on my screen here, I'm logged in as Joe. Joe Blogs, the average user. And from here, Joe can say, I'm looking for a project management tool and see what is available to him today. Smartsheet is one of those options. We can open that up with a simplified profile, standardized information about the application, and that's pre-populated by the master catalog of 40,000 apps we have behind the scenes. Plus, you can layer on any customer-specific information on top of our standard profile information as well. We also get contextual data. So, for example, how many of Joe's colleagues use this application and who within Joe's business is responsible for Smartsheet. And we're also showing other viable approved options at the bottom here. Most importantly, though, on the right-hand side, Joe has options to place an access request for this tool. These options are contextual, by which we mean we're only showing Joe options that are available to him given his role, to make this as straightforward as possible. So Joe can request end-user access to Smartsheet. No other levels are available to him. You can also have time-based access requests. These can be configured against policies behind the scenes that we'll look at in a moment. So Joe's going to request a month's worth of access to Smartsheet, and that is because he is rotating onto the PM team. Now, if we place that request onto the send a notification to Joe, that can be either by email, Slack, or Teams. End users can also view all of their past requests here in the web app. Also worth mentioning at this stage before we move on from the end user view, if I put Slack into view here, these access requests can also be placed via the Slack bot as well. So I could have started the journey we've just looked at right here from within Slack and not even use the web UI. Let's pause there from the end user perspective though. So Joe has submitted the request, got the confirmation the request has been received. Let's now look from Ian's perspective as the IT administrator of Smartsheet. First thing we're going to see here is I've got my Slack notification. Now remember, this can be Slack, Teams, or email. This is confirming the request that Joe has just placed. I am the approver, and right here from within Slack, I can approve or decline. I'm going to approve that request, which is going to nudge it along to the next stage in the approval chain. Now, if I log out and log in as Ian, the admin user, we're going to see some of the other admin tools available to us. So now logged in as Ian, the IT administrator, and if we go to the Smartsheet application profile, on the Request tab here, we get either a list view or a Kanban view of all of those requests that are in play for this tool. There's also roll-up views for all applications as well. So here's the Joe blog request at the bottom of this approval required list. And if I click on that, we've got the full audit trail, date time stamped, where we are in the process, with names of people that have approved those requests as well. So again, when it comes to audit time for SOC 2 or ISO 27001, we're not trawling through emails and tickets. Everything we need right here in one place. Also worth mentioning our ability to automate these access requests. So if everyone approves actually provisioning the user, we have a significant number of direct integrations that support that. As you'll recall, we have over 400 direct-to-app integrations as well, all fully cataloged here within the product, and all integrations available to all users. That means we can automatically provision at the end of the process through a number of direct connectors. Let's also take a moment to look at a slightly different journey as well that's interrelated with this. If I take you back to that app catalog view that we started with, that was a clean path of Joe wanting to access an approved tool, which was Smartsheet in my example. Let's imagine a slightly different approach though. Let's imagine that Joe has a different application in mind. He wants to use Rike for his project management tool. Perhaps he used it in a previous job. He searches the catalog. Rike is not available. We also have this separate path, which is to request a new application to go into the catalog. So from up here, I can say I want access to Rike, looking up against that master catalog of 40,000 apps, and say it is the best. Now, what's going to happen next is we're flagging to the user to say, are you really sure about that? We have these other approved tools available to you today. So the journey could stop here. The user realizes Smartsheet is an option, they review it, they place their access request, as we looked at before. If they're really committed to this, they can submit that request for an entirely new application, and that can kick off a review workflow to onboard that new tool. So now I've had a look at the end user perspective. What I want to do is unpack a bit of quite important detail about what drives this end user experience, because this, I think, is where we really set ourselves apart, some of the thinking that's gone in here. And I'll show you what I mean. Keeping that Smartsheet example in mind, again, logged in and as an administrator. If I go to my Smartsheet profile, remember that end user experience. Joe logged into the app catalog, Smartsheet was available, and he was able to request end user access. His ability to do that was all governed by these access levels I've configured here against Smartsheet. So the end user level that Joe used is available to everybody. So all employees can request access, and when they do, I've configured the following approval chain. IT admin approves first, and the line manager of the requester next. We can also define the number of days for those approvals to be processed before they get escalated. And as we saw in the worked example, you can define durations for the access as well. But let's imagine we have admin access to Smartsheet as well, and that might be more sensitive, more restricted. And that's why I have this policy here that says, well, for admin access, we have a slightly different playbook. Admin access is only available to people within the engineering function within the business. And when they place the request, the line manager has to approve first and then the IT admin. So available to different users with a different approval chain. So quite granular control over those access levels and the approval processes behind them. Now, to round this out, and again, to highlight something that really sets us apart, and this is important when it comes to access requests. People are only going to engage with access requests if it's easy. And making it easy is about working nicely with the existing tech stack. Let's take some practical examples of that. I'm going to look at a different example for a front application here. Let's imagine that I have front behind Okta. Okta is configured for skim, which is to say Okta provisions and deprovisions my front users. So if I put an access request through SaaS Manager for front, what I don't want to do is go and provision user directly to front, because that will create conflict with Okta, which is why you'll see for these access levels, standard user, what we're doing here is actually connecting this access level to a specific Okta group. Now we default to this in the UI where we see the application is configured for skim in Okta, or making it easy for the admin user to make the right setup decision. So when we approve an access request to front, what we do is move the user into this Okta group and the job is done. A very elegant way of working through the IDP where that is the best route. The other point of interoperability I want to highlight is around ticketing systems as well. Now, at the start of this journey, we were trying to avoid people placing tickets for access requests. That's a good thing. We want to get that through the app catalog. But inevitably, some access requests are going to require manual action. Either there's no API available or the API does not support skim. So in that situation, what we're going to have to do for an access level is create a task. Any task we create in Trellica, so as an example here for, say, Asana, we can two-way synchronize these tasks with tickets in all the popular ITSMs, Jira, ServiceNow, Freshservice. The idea being that when manual intervention is required, we're not going to have IT admins managing two inboxes and two task management systems. We'll work seamlessly with their ITSMs. They manage everything over there. They close the task there. We'll close the task in Trellica. We're going to have the audit log in both places. Again, I think it's those details that make the deployment of an access management solution viable that we really set ourselves apart on. Really working with the IT team rather than giving them yet another tool with duplicative functionality.